So I'm going to, before I show the rose, I'm going to be working on a piece that I've already coloured. I just want to quickly show how I achieved that, because people might think, oh, well, that's lovely, but how did she create the background? Okay. So what I tend to do is wet my paper, and in this case it's the Bockingford, which is our go-to watercolour paper, and we use it for mixed media. Okay.
And we do have that available on the show as well, don't we?
I can't recommend it highly enough, and we use it all the time. So you can either dunk your paper in a bucket wet, or you can spray it, but just make it moist.
Yeah.
Let's add a little bit more pigment, and then.
And you're using the paints here.
Yes, I'm using our multi-surface, and these multi-surface are our paints that we've literally, from when we started. Are we 7 years old now? We're 7.
Wow.
We haven't changed at all. This is what we use because they're good and they're brilliant, and they do exactly what we want them to do. We can use them as a watercolour, or we can use them more neatly. But can you see, as it dries, the colours will blend into the background, and you get these lovely effects. And if it's not blending enough, spritz it a little bit more with some more water. But that's basically how I do my background.
Now, do you prefer to let that dry naturally, or would you heat dry it?
If you heat dry it, you stop the blending process. But if you leave it to dry naturally, just the colours will just seep together, and then you get lovely tones where it's mixed.
Perfect.
So I know I do.
You could have a day then of creating just beautiful backgrounds if you wanted to, so they're ready to go.
Right, so if I can just reach down here. Oh no, I've got them up here, beg pardon. I'm going to show you where we're headed. So if I can show you this piece here, this is where we're headed. So from this one little stamp here, which is Sweet Rose, I've used that one stamp and the little extra worker stamps to create this lady. Now, when I thought of this, I thought, oh, people are going to say, oh, yeah, but I can't draw, I can't do a face. So we decided to do this download. This was my original face, and actually I think the one you've got now I've slightly adapted, because I did put a hairline in, but actually I realised quite soon that if you don't have the hairline, there's more things you can do with it. You can extend the hair down or extend flowers down. So actually the one you'll get will be slightly different, and I've slightly tweaked her eyebrows as well. So it'll be a little bit different, but the eyes and the mouth and everything is the same. So what you would do is, this is your digital download, and you would download it as a file. You can photocopy it directly onto your copy paper, as I've done here, and I'll show you how I'm going to transfer that to the design, to the paper. And I've cut a second one which is exactly the same, which is my mask. You can also print directly from your file if you're that way inclined, you know, digitally savvy. You can print your image directly onto your Bockingford. Now this is 300 GSM, and this goes through my inkjet. Some inkjets are a bit different, some might not, but of course you can scale. So if you've got stamps at home you want to use it with, you can do that too. We don't mind that at all.
I love the fact that we can do that. We can adjust the size.
Yeah, so you can see size-wise, that's the original, slightly smaller and smaller still. And so the smaller one, that's another one, and that's not using the rose, that's using Full Bloom, which we've also got on the show today. And I know I want to get on with the demo, but I just want to explain that
Full Bloom was one of the catkins, was it? It
is the catkin one, but you have to bear in mind, if you're using an inkjet printer, you can add water to it. If you're using, beg pardon, if you're using laser printer, you can add water. If it's an inkjet, you can't.
Because
it will run. So I've done her face, this is with an inkjet. I've done her face with Pro markers, or alcohol pens, because it won't bleed, and then the rest I've used VersaFine Clair, so you can add liquid to it and water so it doesn't bleed. So you can do a mix of the two. So anyway, I'm going to show you how we achieve and build up this face, and I'm going to work on this piece here. So let's get our stamp out.
It's almost as though you've got stars in them. Is that just with water?
Yes, this is exactly the technique I've just shown, except when it's not dry, not wet, but just sort of getting that sheen of almost being done, you flick it with water and you get this sort of bleaching out spots on the background. So I'm going to add my ink. I mean, you could use a water-based ink if you want to sort of start blending your flowers, or stick with the VersaFines if you don't want to, depending on what you want to achieve. So just bear in mind, I'm going to be adding a face, so obviously you want to make room to extend your head. Make an impression.
Nice. I'm just looking at all the little elements within the stamp sets as well, and they're invaluable, aren't they?
They are. You know, and I mean, you've seen some of the girls are just using them without, you know, without even using the hero. They're literally just the workers. So, right, this is what I've printed off, like that.
Lovely.
And then, so what I do to transfer it is I add pencil to the back.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm going to lay it over, and you can actually see through copy paper. So you can see, I can see, I don't know if you can see on camera, you can just about see where it is. Or what you could do is, you know, you could cut it out and then see. But I want it to be about like that.
Okay.
Okay. So that's where she's going to go. And there's actually very few marks in here. Eyes, eyebrows I'm just going to draw around. Shoulders.
She's got a beautiful face.
Thank you.
You could give her a hat on.
There we are.
Your fascinator.
So she's all on.
Yeah.
And then what we're going to do is, I'm not going to put the face in until the very, very last, because although I won't have time to do all the colour work, I want to show how to extend.
Yeah.
And if I do colour work and I use my pen, it's going to bleed, and I really, really don't want bleeding. So what we're going to do now to extend is use the little worker stamps. And we're just going to grow this piece of artwork.
And this is lovely, because you don't need sort of a left and a right, because you can change this one so easily, can't you? Just depending on how you place the actual stamp itself.
Yeah, and also for directional work, you don't always have to do the stem. If you ink up the stem and then wipe it off, you can change the stem with pen work. So that's something to sort of think about as well.
Yeah, so you could make them taller and longer, and, you know, create your frames and do all sorts with them.
And when I was doing this and working it out, I figured that this is a bit like flower arranging. When you're arranging flowers, you're creating a shape, and then you're kind of infilling in between.
Yeah.
And it's a similar sort of process. So I'm just going to take a bit of the stem off here, because I don't want that on her face. I think we're going to go down. Yeah, as soon as I start going near a face, I'm going to pop the mask on, but I don't want to do that just yet.
Okay.
So I can always come back to that if I want to do some more. And so far, this is all from the same Sweet Rose set.
Yeah.
But there's lots of lovely little workers on not Sweet Clover, the Clover one, that can be used for the same one. And of course, you could use coloured inks as well. You don't have to use black. Right, now I've put the mask on because I'm actually wanting it to look like some of the plant work is coming from behind her face. And that's why it's already got marks on, because of what I've done on the other one. I just love this bit. This is the bit where you just get lost and just keep playing. Little tiny fine one. Now I want it also to look like it's coming down over her face, so we'll have some.
Do you know, without the face as well, a total cascade of flowers, you know, a wreath, you can achieve all those things, and you get the corner stamp in this set as well.
Yes, you do, and I've done some interesting things with the corner stamp which I'd like to show as well. I've got so much to show, Catherine, I don't know what to do first. But can you see how it's building up?
You can, and quickly as well.
Yeah, really, really quickly. But the one thing you will need to get or have is a fine black pen.
Yeah.
Sort of the same width as the line work on the stamps, because we're going to add to it. It's almost like being a hairdresser, isn't it? I'm pretending I'm a hairdresser.
You're adding, not taking away.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that bit.
You can do that.
But can you see how it's beginning to grow? And actually, and I also want to put some. I want to have some coming down here. So let's use. This is a pretty one. I love this one. And this is really easy to extend. So if we have that. So as I'm placing it, I'm kind of thinking I will join it up to that rose up there. So don't worry about things sort of looking like they're wafting a bit, because we can connect them.
Yes. That's a handy little stamp as well if you wanted to use some sort of glazes or drops, if you wanted to turn them into berries, because it's almost the stems,
yes,
isn't it?
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you can add something to them afterwards as
would.
well.
Right, I think
Perfect.
I might just have a little bit more coming down over this side. You can always, if you're not sure, it's actually probably best to leave it out, and then you can always add in later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that will do for now. So let's put that away. Let's just have a little bit of a sort out.
Okay.
So, right, pen-wise, I'm going to be using a 0.2. Now, mine's just like a fine liner. I'm sure you've probably got the micron ones, don't you?
Yeah, I'm sure there's some on the website
and stuff like that.
Them.
And so what I would do now is you can either carry on adding more and more, put the face in, but any paintwork needs to be done before you start adding that. Now, I won't have time to do the paintwork, and I've shown you what I've done, but so we'll imagine that it's all beautifully coloured, and I'm just going to add the face. So what I'm going to do is where the pencil line is. Now, if you feel you can't see it, just go back over it with a pencil, or just go straight over the top with your pen. And basically, I'm just going to put the line in that I've traced from the digital download.
It's how quickly this is coming together, Kathy, once you get going.
Yeah. Actually, when I was doing my samples, it was the colouring that took the time. The actual construction was really, really quick. But of course, colouring is, you know, it can take you a long time, or you can just a quick watercolour wash and it would look lovely, wouldn't it?
So I'm looking at the stamping you've done as well, and I'm noticing more and more detail. Those tiny little elements, those little dots, and almost a star in there I can see. Those little shapes, they add so perfectly to the overall look, don't they?
So now with the eye, I've actually put eyelashes in, but if you were feeling confident, you could actually draw open eyes. If you know, felt creative and wanted to do that, you could do your own thing, or just come back to the download and look and just copy where the eyelash is in. I mean, you could change the direction, make them longer.
You could maybe just have a practice first of all, couldn't you, if you wanted the open eyes, before you go straight onto your main project.
If you've done a beautiful piece and you're a bit worried about what to do, put tracing paper over it first and do your work on the tracing paper, and then think, oh right, okay, I've got my confidence now, then go straight in for the...
That's a really good idea. She looks very serene though, because of her eyes, I think. You know, has she got her eyes closed, or is she looking down? It could be either. And she's got the most perfect mouth.
Right, now with her eyebrows. Actually, when I look at her eyebrows on there, I'm thinking that's a bit too heavy for me. And so I think on this one, I started off by painting them in, and then I did some pen work, but I wish I hadn't done the pen work. I think painting them in worked best, but you only know that by doing it. And I'm just going to lightly sketch them in.
And you could change the thickness of the eyebrows, I suppose, as well, if you didn't trace it all the way through.
The one that is on the download, the eyebrows are actually a little bit different because I felt they were going in a little bit. So now this is where you would start to connect everything together. I would also dry it off so you're not smudging it, but this is where you can connect stems or put artwork in yourself, so you could mimic what you see.
Yeah, I think people, once they get brave enough to give that a go, you really can sort of make a difference, can't you, by improvising?
We've also got little roses, so you could add 3D roses coming down and framing her face. I mean, fussy cutting would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
It really would. Oh, everything's gone so quiet. We're all enthralled.
All concentrating, aren't we? Well, I am. Yeah, and you were saying about dots and stars. I do that a lot. If there's a gap, right, let's look at some here. You know, I could put the stems in, but I always fill gaps with circles and little stars. It just sort of draws everything together.
Do you know, it really does. And they're tiny, but what a difference they actually make. And then tying it all together again, where you've added, you know, the addition there of those extra little worker stamps, and then sort of replicating what you can already see in the main stamp, the hero stamp.
Yeah, any gaps, just fill, and any stems that need to be connected, just draw them up and connect them. We'll put an extra couple of leaves in because there's a gap. And this is what I love about stamping and creating your own thing, is because you're using stamp as a guide, but then you're putting your own creativity on. I mean, she could have short hair, long hair. We'll extend this out down here. This is a 0.2, and this is sort of like the thickness, well, of our stamps anyway. I mean, some stamps are a little bit thicker, but they're great for adding in the extra detail and making that stamp design your own, adding your own creativity onto it.
And once again, how fine the detail is on the actual stamps themselves shows the quality. You know, you're not, when you're stamping with it, you're not getting it squashed down. It's firm enough to hold every bit of detail there. You don't have to worry about whether you're using a platform or blocks. You can use a combination of both. There's so many options, isn't there? Oh, just that little bit of action on the eye.
Yeah, well, if you sort of look back from your work, you can see what it needs. Now, to me, it just needs this defining a bit heavier. Of course, if it had colour on it, that would help a lot. But like I say, you know, you can print directly onto your paper. I mean, I've had printers in the past which have been very, very temperamental with thicknesses of paper and just spit them out. But the one I've got at the minute does take quite a good weight, although I have to hand feed it in. But, you know, I'm only doing the odd sheet, so it's all fine to do, isn't it?
She's come together so beautifully.
Isn't she? And imagine doing this as a wedding present, and you could sticking on some leaves from the bouquet or some confetti as well, or something like that. It would be really personalised, wouldn't it?
Oh, using some of the forever flowers in the frame with her in there would look gorgeous as well. You could correspond the colours with the flowers that you've got. You
could. And if you're not confident with the drawing in like I'm doing, go back and start adding in, you know, some more from the worker stamps. It's not finished, but it just shows how from that one hero stamp, how we've extended. This is just a reminder of where it came from, and of course you could go on with all your fussy cutting and make it dimensional as well, so really beautiful. And then I quickly also want to mention with with it. I've extended it like we've done on the lady, but I've done a repeat. Isn't that lovely for a frame? She's our honey and bees. I love this stamp. This is a Catkin stamp, but beautiful as a foil for holding like a photograph or something. And again, you could fussy cut and put all your detail on. And then I was going to show you about the corners. So you get your corner on the set, but repeat it 4 times, and again you've got another frame. Really pretty, isn't it?
Absolutely.